It's absolutely the nicest computer you can strap to your face. It's called the Apple Vision Pro, and as much of a gadget freak as I am, I'm not sure I want to strap a computer to my face. Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. This is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Gentlemen, I watched Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference keynote yesterday, and it was one of those things where you know there's going to be the one more thing, because they've been hyping. Well, excuse me, Apple hadn't been doing the hyping. Their minions in the media had been doing the hyping that this is the year that Apple's finally going to reveal their face strap computer, and so you're sitting through the stuff where they introduce all the new features in macOS and all the new features in iOS and all the new features. You're like, oh, just get to the one more thing. And after, I guess what must have been 45 minutes or an hour of all the other stuff, they finally got to the one more thing and introduced Apple Vision Pro, which I got to tell you, it looks like $1 million. It looks like, I don't know, if a stormtrooper went scuba diving, this would be his scuba goggles. They're really cool.
They are cool.
Yeah, unlike the Meta thing, which has the strap that goes over your head, and women aren't going to wear that. It's going to ruin their hair. Hell, I wouldn't wear that. It'd ruin my hair. There's nothing up here. It's got a soft sock-like strap that fits around the back of your head. It's supposed to be very gentle, very comfortable. The Wall Street Journal's Joanna Stern got to wear one as a demo on Monday, and she said it was quite comfortable, except that after about 10-15 minutes, she could notice the weight on the bridge of her nose. Okay, that's fine. It's got some high-end laptop specifications and then some. It's got, Apple's best-in-class laptop processor in there. It's got enough graphics horsepower to move, I think it's 23 million pixels. Yes. You've got dual almost 6K screens, one for each eye. And the thing is actually see-through in this eyesight mode. It's not like you're wearing a blaster helmet. People can actually see your eyes, and you can carry on a conversation without taking the big strap-on computer off your face. Yeah. In terms of just thoughtfulness, inventiveness, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. Maybe my favorite feature is it's got a digital crown like your Apple Watch has, except instead of adjusting the time, it adjusts how much you're seeing of the real world and how much you're seeing of the augmented realities. You can dial it in as hard or strong as you want, depending on your situation. If you want to watch a movie on the thing on the 100-foot virtual screen, you dial out reality. If you're in an office situation, making a FaceTime call here and having somebody in the real world there, you dial it down the other way. It's all very cool. But Bill, the question remains, for $3,500, what value do you get for having what's essentially a mobile device, kind of desktop machine, strapped to your face?
Does this iFace do virtual reality?
Yeah, well, it's augmented reality, but
I understand that. Yeah, I get that. But can it be used as a VR headset?
I believe it can. Yes.
Yes. All right. So if it's a decent VR headset, a top-of-the-line VR headset, really top-of-the-line is in that general ballpark. Okay. So I guess it's that. Look, I think this thing's going to go the way of the cassette player, the CD player, and the iPad. It's never going to catch on.
That's right.
These have been my predictions in the past. On a more serious note, my first instinct on this, Steve, when I see I hadn't even heard of it. I just looked it up when you were talking about it. And my first take on this is, to me, this feels like wearing a calculator on your belt in 1978. Which I did.
Cool.
Which I did.
Saying? It's cool.
Yeah. It's like I'm a tech guy, and I've got my quick draw, LCD, LED, calculator right here in case I need to quickly calculate some kind of, celestial mechanics problem. Instead of just writing just writing letters or numbers on it, turning it upside down and getting a laugh.
That's right.
So it has that kind of vibe to it. Look, to be perfectly honest with you, I suspect this kind of thing is going to eventually be inevitable.
Yes.
But to me, I think we spend enough time going into the virtual world already, way too much time, and not enough time in the real world. And this, to me, seems a way to bring the virtual world into the real world. And I have grave concerns about that just overall.
Yeah, the work case I saw, this is what confuses me. It's called Vision Pro, and when Apple puts Pro in the name of something, they're saying this is our highest end thing.
Yep.
But as I watched the promotional videos on Monday, almost everything I saw was consumer oriented. Folks doing 3D videos at the birthday party. Somebody is watching a movie and it seems to be projected above this beautiful lake in the evening time. A FaceTime call with family members, including the purple-haired aunt. Bill, if you're going to spend that kind of pro money, don't you want a pro experience? I didn't see the pro experience.
I'm glad you gave me a second chance here because it reminded me of something really important. It is a sci-fi trope. It's in every science fiction movie you've ever seen now since Minority Report, at least. That every time you see any kind of display from the future, it will be floating in the air. It'll be clear, right? It's not even a screen. It's like a hologram that's projected in front of you, right? And every time I see these things, I just laugh because it's like, how am I supposed to read these letters when the bloody sun is in my eyes, Or can I get this thing to go opaque so I can actually see what's on the screen, not be distracted by this person who's yelling behind, into his telephone? Every time I see that, I think, it looks cool, but it's completely impractical. Nobody would want, if you imagine the screen you're watching this on now was essentially 50% transparent, and you had it up against your window, and everything that's going on outside past you is interfering with what you're trying to see on the computer screen, you just put a piece of velvet on the wall or something. And so I also wonder about that. I'm obviously assuming that the displays have some degree of transparency so you don't just walk off a cliff. But then again, I would have thought that would be true for other devices, and people are walking off of cliffs with those, so maybe I'm wrong.
It uses cameras to display the real world
thank God.
On your twin screens, and then
I don't have to see the real world personally, right? I don't have to go through that, right?
And this,
thank God, tones it down,
and then it projects your spreadsheet or your photo editing, whatever it is you're doing, in a floating virtual space in your real.
There's nothing I'd rather do while I'm skiing, Steve, than work on my spreadsheet.
Yes. I know there are work cases here, Scott, although actually before I get to that, I want to tell you one of the coolest things. Bill, you mentioned Minority Report, and it's always the same thing where the wearer is doing these huge hand gestures, throwing stuff around. Well, this Vision Pro has a downward-facing camera that can see your fingers down where your keyboard would be. So you select something with your eye just by looking at it, and then you can tap it with your fingers down where you would normally tap instead of having to do all this and pinch like Tom Cruise. Scott, you do a lot of nerdy stuff, and I mean that as a compliment because so do I. What is your...
Yes.
Just say somebody gave you $3,500 and said you have to spend it on a Vision Pro. What would you do with the thing?
Buy a new car.
That's right. Can I get air conditioning in my car for that? It's one of those things where the initial response is, wow, that is amazing. If you've seen any of the video of it, none of the reviewers, including Joanna Stern at the Wall Street Journal, my favorite tech reviewer, Joanna's number 2 in my world, MKBHD, Marquez Brownlee on his MKBHD channel on YouTube. It's fantastic. None of them were allowed to take any pictures or shoot any video of their time alone with the device. So they ran through a sequence of demos. It's still in beta mode because it's not going to be released till next year. And so you didn't really get to see, you got to see Apple's video of the experience of what it's going to look like. And you're right, Bill, it's funny because that transparent screen thing, what you're going to see is not a transparent screen. You're going to see your living room, but there's going to be a web page hovering in your living room. And they've actually worked it out.
Oh, thank God.
That's right. They've worked it out so that the shadow cast by that web page or whatever other app you have open actually appears to show up in your room, like it's got dimensionality.
That's what gives it depth, yeah.
And what Steve was talking about, to select something, you literally just go like this, but you don't have to hold your fingers up to your face because the camera is coming off of that thing. Even if your hand is just resting by your side, you just tap your fingers together. You can scroll things by using your fingers, and it's really phenomenal. The fact that you can dial in the degree to which it's augmented reality, so you can make it more translucent, so you see more of the real world. I thought that was cool. Watching a movie on it is probably going to be phenomenal. They finally found a use for the panoramic pictures that you shot on your iPhone that you never could really look at in any of their...
So you can do this kind of thing now?
Yes. Your panoramic... Like, I took some pictures in Israel years ago that I would love to see on this thing because it was down in the desert of the south of Israel, and I did this big pan of the whole, looking across the whole desert. Well, when you look at that on your phone, it's nothing. Even on your 28-inch monitor, it's nothing. Anyway, so I think that's going to look really cool. However... there are two things. Number one is some of the reviewers are like, over and over, and the news people were like, but it's $3,500. Only the rich will get these. And I'm like, no. Have you been paying attention at all to the last 30 years?
To life, yeah.
It's like, first of all, not only the rich will get them, and secondly, $3,500 will be no obstacle to anybody who wants one. They will get one. These will sell well. And it's going to take a while for people to develop how they use them. Yeah. The fact that they made it, because they use these premium materials all the time, so like the other VR headsets are generally made out of plastic so that they can be lightweight. This one is metal and glass. Now, the problem, as Joanna Stern points out, is that makes it a little bit heavy on the bridge of your nose after wearing it for a while. The other problem that Joanna mentioned was she got a little seasick.
That'll do it sometimes, yeah.
Now, anybody who's flown in like a single-engine airplane may have had that sensation as well. Like, I've flown a couple of times with people, and when you first fly, you're not used to the way movement happens and motion happens, so it gets your brain gets a little disoriented. I think that'll be overcome with software. By the way, Steve, the thing when you're looking from the outside in and seeing people's eyes, you are not.
Yeah,
it's a screen that's facing outward.
Another screen on the outside.
You're looking at a video of their eyes. You're not.
Yeah, it's a projected video image.
That's right.
Because there are inward-facing cameras as well. I mean, this thing has half a dozen cameras and a LiDAR.
Lots.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then allow me just. I'm sorry, Scott. Were you done?
That's okay. Go ahead. I have more, but go ahead.
I was just going to say that there will be sales from this because here in California, anyway, there are still people that wear their masks, right? And I've come to obviously they're never going to take those masks off. They're going to wear them forever.
Yes.
Part of that is it's the liberal MAGA hat. I get that, but part of it is I realize is that there are people out there who are more comfortable being masked. They're more comfortable with not showing their expressions, and I think that aspect of it. No, you won't see my actual eyes. You'll just see,
Well, there are.
I don't have to make eye contact with you.
Yeah. There are LED lights on the inside so that they can actually light the area around your eyes. So therefore, they can video that area and then project it on the screen on the outside. And the retinal tracking is apparently phenomenal. It's also retinal unlocking, by the way. When you put it on, it will immediately recognize you because of your eyeballs and let you use the device. But Steve's right. I mean, as you look around, and when you look at a search box, you can then start talking and it will type into that search box. You can also hook up a keyboard to it if you want to, but it looks like for most circumstances, unless you're writing an email, you don't need to. I think that the challenge for this is not the money. The challenge is really that while you are saturated and immersed in an experience unlike any other, no one else is. And in fact, unless you're alone, you are kind of rebuffing other humans. They had this video of this
because you're wearing a giant thing on your face, even if it has your eyeballs.
You have a giant ski goggles with a mirror on the outside of them. But there's this dad kneeling on the floor as his little girl and her friends she's going to blow out the candles on her third birthday cake or whatever. And it's so adorable. And I'm sure when you see the video later, you're like, ooh, I'm right there. I feel like I'm right there. Well, yeah, but Dad isn't. Because Dad's shooting the video.
Dad isn't, right. Congratulations, Dad. Yeah.
Your
daughter can't see your face.
Yeah.
It also has, at this point, only 2 hours of battery life, and that's with the battery that is wired to the headset. The wire kind of runs down, and you can stick the battery in your pocket. You can plug it in through the battery pack and then just run it, incessantly. But you couldn't go, like, say, oh, you could watch a movie on it. Yeah, as long as the movie's less than 2 hours.
Yeah, and a MacBook is got like 15 hours of battery life. Some of them have even more. So
I'm fascinated by this business about it projecting your eyes, because I don't know if this thing will have like a face saver or something, but if you could, instead of projecting my eyes in real time, I would get like else's. Manson's eyes. And I just go around all the time with that kind of,
when you get one,
I'm going to murder everybody kind of look.
When you get the set, they're actually going to custom make, they use this kind of LiDAR scanner to read your face, and they're going to custom make that, the plate that fits against your face where your eyes are. And if you wear glasses, you're going to be able to get like these Zeiss lenses that
pre-corrected.
Yeah. I mean, they've literally thought of everything. I mean, you get in there, and it's essentially a floating in the air MacBook. There's nothing you can't do that you wouldn't do on your MacBook or your iPad Pro. It's got that much horsepower, that many apps, all the stuff you would expect. Email, music, just everything is in there. And I think maybe that's my problem. You wear this big thing on your face, and it has to be big to fit the 6 cameras and the LiDAR and the 3 screens and the Dolby Atmos speakers that go. So you've got 3D sound.
It's also diesel powered. They didn't mention that,
right? So I think it does too much, and that's the thing. If they could get down to something that does a lot less, but gives me useful information in something that isn't much larger or thicker than these, call it the Vision Air. Then I think they've got a huge seller. And not that the Vision Pro won't sell, it will sell. But to have something that isn't isolating, like Scott said, and that is actually useful in a day-to-day context instead of just a work context. Give me this with just a little more, kind of like the Apple Watch does.
I think they will.
Then that's what I'm going to plop down my money, and it's still going to be a lot of money. It's Apple. What are you going to do? All right, that's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.